Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin. Around 8 p.m. on Wednesday, October 9th. I believe I got that right. It's the sunset after Yom Kippur. I'm going to pick up my daughter. I am what some would call a weekend dad, but it's hard to label something that way when I talk with her literally every day, using that word literally in the proper sense. I have a always quite long, and excuse my allergies, my allergies seem to set in this time of the year, going into Halloween, October. What an interesting month for so many reasons. So I have great long weekends with this kid. We often, especially in the past, had done interesting, extravagant things. We did do Comic-Con last week, so we are on the tail end of one of those interesting, extravagant things. But for the most part, we've been lazy. And I feel that on the weekends, this is an important thing that she has to get from me. The feeling of not being on a schedule, of not having to answer to anyone for anything except making sure you eat well and get some sunlight and some exercise. So one of my various lessons to her is that even though we are the type of people who do interesting things and we like to take advantage of some of our shall we call them native superpowers. As a native New Yorker, because I'm not native, I'm a Philadelphian, born in Jersey really, but raised and consider myself a Philadelphian. All my actual memories are from living in the suburbs of Philly. And my kid is a child of New York City, true native. And I want to make sure that she takes advantage of a lot of the things that means. Like, well, you gotta excuse me, I don't even know if I'll use this video because of this. It must be terrible listening to that. This will be a real test of my policy of not editing and filling in this interesting bits of time between, transition time that normally just like disappears from your life. You can zone out, listen to music. It's a great place for the various hobbies you might have taken up. If you can partake in that hobby, while you're doing other things, if it's in multiple, like particularly audio-oriented things, you can always listen to stuff while you're driving or waiting in line or on the subway or whatever. So the transitional times in our life tends really to be things like this driving to and from places to pick people up or whatnot. In fact, I am going straight. I'm not turning like I thought I was. I'm going somewhere else tonight to pick up my daughter than I normally would, being the breaking of the fast. And I really enjoy being with my daughter, and living now close to her makes it possible to do these little runs. Now, I rarely do them as often as maybe would be my inclination, because with my day job, it's a lot of running around, and filling your activities up back to back is very rigorous on your body, and it exhausts you. This transition time is some of the most exhausting time, because it's when you're really putting forth like that physical-ish effort. And the more you can cut it down and focus that energy onto your mental product, the better. So it doesn't always have to be just audio. I do this video thing. I think YouTube is sort of my media. I could do live casting because the way I talk, it just comes off naturally, and I could have a time for people to tune in for my live cast, and it's approximately the same as what I do today, but instead of uploading YouTube videos, they call it live cast and it starts uploading as soon as you disconnect, because as cool as technology is, you can't really broadcast to things like YouTube from your phone in actual real time. First, data gets collected, then all the resources that was going into the collecting of that data, because your phones are still only mere supercomputers, they're not these massive production studios yet. They puts its resources into capture and file writing, from sensors to data to committed to some media, like the SSD cards that have replaced hard drives. Those resources switch around instead to the upload. And as anyone who does these speed tests on the internet knows, uploads occur a lot slower than downloads, maybe 1/5 to 1/10 the speed. So the argument can be made that you could start your live broadcast in the background using the multimedia capabilities of your phone to get that little sliver of the broadcast going that you can while you're still recording. And certainly the software can be written to work that way, and the optimizations can be made so that's a real thing. But the truth is, the 80-20 rule dictates that everything becomes just so much more simple if you just keep it sequential. So even the live broadcast from our phones, as far as I understand it right now, and the streaming is going to be like streaming to capture. It's just normal video record. And then the second you stop capture, it starts the upload. And then people can start watching it as fast as Google processes the upload. And that's as close to live as it gets these days. But that's pretty good live, because it gets you this thing that is still a huge benefit, broadcasting as quickly as you record. So like, imagine I stop recording, now that's a live event. There's a URL for that people could tune into, and it also becomes the uploaded YouTube video of the sort that I'm already doing. So these are the types of transitions in career now, you see I'm pulling it all together, that we always need to be doing. I am always on the guard against obsolescence, because I'm an old man. I'm 49 years old. And what that means is that the way people are being raised to think about the world is different. And many of the assumptions that I used to make as a youngin' and had in my growing up are quaint old ways of thinking. And so the YouTube upload, of which I seem to be sort of fixated on because it suits my way I do stuff. Fill in the downtime, get a little, just verbalize that has been going around in your head. So it's idea processing. I used to say, I do these videos as much as for me as I do for you, because I punched the clock at a New York City media job, at which I'm doing, I believe, fairly well at keeping pace with youngins, resisting using cloud services and doing long-term retention of data wherever I can, knowing that having done database stuff in the past, you are always on the hook for that data, and only eating its own tail data scenarios save you from having to archive more data forever that will probably never really be utilized until you start doing machine learning stuff. So it all does come together, and all that raw data you try and capture all the time could actually be worth something to someone some unknown number of years from now, or tomorrow if you throw yourself into machine learning systems, which it's really hard to do as a side gig when you're punching the clock for something else. I don't really punch the clock. I'm a salaried employee, so God bless the, skilled workforce. Not that punch clockers aren't skilled, but there's already a transition going on from the knowledge worker to the next thing after. So Peter Drucker, one of those, business gurus who helped shape the post-World War II world, would put it in terms of knowledge workers who added value to the production, added value to the value chain of production, of economic production, based on what they know and things in their head and capabilities they can bring to lots of different situations where they know how to look at a problem, pick it apart in their brain, apply prior knowledge, and come up with solutions that will help their bosses, put money in their employers' pockets. And that is the deal of the, post-internet. I mean, it's not post-internet, because internet's been around for a long time, since like the 70s, the ARPANET and things that were made, as a means to keep computer networks running after a nuclear attack. So if part of the grid is taken out, you don't want things so centralized that communication can't flow around. So that tech came out of DARPA, and that was the ARPANET, and Al Gore, who invented the internet, right? So he really did pass the legislation to, get this stuff in at least the hands of universities where, it could do some good for the state of humanity, and hence the internet. And then Unix hitting at around 1970, and this perfect storm of computers that are required to run the internet, and Unix being available in various forms that was, if not totally legally, traded throughout the world, and created the backbone of the internet. A lot of web servers were BSD, which was a Berkeley derivative of Unix, about which there was a lot of illegal entanglement. So it was only later in the 90s, mid-90s, early 90s, it was invented, but for it to really kick in by like 1996 or so, there was Linux, and hence the web bursts onto the scene because a basic web server can be made doing all the requirements that the internet has, plus a little bit of publishing. And Linux replaced Unix in many, many places, but BSD still remained around for usually DNS servers, the addressing system. That was all made for Berkeley Unix, which had a lot of staying power and did a lot to help promote today's state of the world, where the internet is a common thing and not in the hands of just the rich and the elite or the universities. Oh, and I am where I am going. So I got stuck on some interesting tangents there, but I will wrap this up because I'm picking up my kid. And the thing is, I am making sure I revise my view of the world, the base assumptions I make, to be more in tune with the way things really are and what's going on. And I do that in part by staying really close with my kid, listening to what she has to say, helping her learn things, teaching her some of the daddy old school way of doing stuff. And, I better wrap up there because I'm aching to be out and pick her up and have a cool night with her before I drop her off again, because I won't be seeing her next weekend. So this is a special time. Make her see that I was thinking about her and I want to see her in person. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe.